Alrighty. Well, hey, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Monterey Bay Aquarium here live for Sea Otter Awareness Week. It is day 5 here of the most otterly possum week of the year, and we are here to talk about sea otters with all of you. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. My name is Patrick. I'm the one here behind the logo with the otters in the background. If anything breaks during this broadcast, that'll be my fault. If we suddenly start streaming the aviary cam, that's on me. And I'm joined directly below me with Curtis. Curtis is our webcam master. You'll be seeing him fly the webcams around. If you enjoy any of our live cams, that's thanks to Curtis over here. Then we've got an amazing member of the Monterey Bay Aquarium's digital engagement, social media, email team over here in this diagonal. That is Rachel over there. Rachel is going to be answering or throwing us our questions, your questions from the audience to our experts here. Rachel, how you doing this afternoon?
Doing great. Otterly possum today. How are you, Patrick?
Doing fantastic. Yes, getting ready to hop into it. And joining us today is our curator of marine mammals, Chris DeAngelo is over. Yes, I nailed it. This side of the screen over here. There's Chris.
Hey, morning,
Chris.
Everyone.
Hey, how are you doing over there at the aquarium?
We're doing pretty good here. We're doing pretty good.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's unfortunately there's not a lot of visitors here, but we are having actually a great day working with the otters.
That's awesome. So yeah, we are here with you, and we can see that you're right there next to the sea otter exhibit. This photo here behind me is of our ladies here, our resident sea otters, but you're currently right there at the sea otter exhibit. And we're going to be asking you some questions from the audience as they come in real quick. But Chris, can you just introduce us to your work, what is it that you do at the aquarium working with these sea otters? And I'm sure a lot of people that are tuning in right now, you basically have the dream job working with these sea otters, being in charge of what's going on right there next to you as we have some otters swimming. Yeah, tell us a little bit about what your day-to-day is and what your role is at the aquarium.
Yeah, Patrick, I'd be glad to. Actually, I have one of them helping me out right here. That's Rosa that just cruised by to see what we were doing. Basically, as curator of this exhibit, my job is the overall care of the exhibit, the animals, the staff members, pretty much anything that has to do with the Sea Otter exhibit program. That's a little different than the side of our rescue and rehab program, but I take care of the exhibit otters. So we have 5 permanent resident sea otters, all adult females. And so the physical facility, the enrichment program, the training program, the fish that live in the exhibit, all of it comes under my job description.
That's awesome. Yeah. So, one of those exhibits that really is iconic to the aquarium, and Chris, I don't know if I've told you this previously, but when I was 5 years old, I was basically sitting right where you were, and I saw the sea otters at the aquarium, and I wanted to be a marine biologist and work there. So definitely the otters are one of the hallmarks of any time visiting the aquarium. How long have you been working with them, if you haven't already mentioned it? And then and we can talk about this a little bit later, but like what was your trajectory to make your way here working with the otters?
Yeah, so I've worked here twice now.
Sorry, Rosa's staring down.
Yeah, there's Rosa. See, this is why I'm sitting here, because the otters are going to come over and play, and it's much more fun than anything I have to say. But I've worked here now twice. Okay. The first time I worked here, I was hired when the Valdez oil spill happened, and I was brought in to help rescue and take care of those, a couple of the oil otters that came down from Alaska to Monterey Bay. And so I was here for a couple of years. Then I left and worked all around the U.S. and even outside the U.S. at a bunch of different facilities. Working with mostly other types of marine mammals, not sea otters. And then I came back about 15 years ago, and I've been back here ever since.
Awesome. And I'm just going to transition over to you, picture in picture with the webcam there in the background. We can kind of follow the otters as they swim right by you there, Chris. And let's see, I think now, we've been going here for a few minutes already, so we should have a few folks being able to tune into the broadcast. Rachel, what kind of questions are folks wondering right off the bat here?
Sure. So we have a question that came in from Facebook. We're asking about favorite treats of the sea otters, and do different otters have different favorites?
Yeah, actually, that's a really common question, and in my opinion, you'd have to ask the sea otters, and I don't know how they would respond to this, but they definitely do have favorite treats, and they also have favorite food items. So, for example, Rosa, um, if you give her a squid, she's like, okay, fine, I'll eat it. But if you give her a crab, she's all about that. So, if I was to choose a favorite food item for our oldest otter, I would say it is definitely crab. She really, really enjoys that. Abby, if you were to, probably, have a chat with Abby and figure it out, she'd tell you clam. But she doesn't want to have to work at the clam and open the shell and put the effort into it. She likes us to hand the clam all prepared to her on her chest. So all she has to do is eat it. But if you give her a clam in the shell that she has to open, that's a lot of work. And she'd much rather we do it for her. And then Ivy's a great eater. She will eat anything. And so I wouldn't even tell you what I would guess Ivy's favorite food source or item is. Probably not squid. None of the otters rate squid that high, but she's good with all live food. She's good with oysters. They're really hard. She likes to destroy things and devastate things. She's very destructive for such a little sea otter. So I'd put oysters high up in Ivy's preference chain.
That's really funny. I like that description of destructive there, because we often get questions like, how come you don't just give the otters a GoPro to play with and take a look at? Why don't we just you should do this kind of thing? And I know that when you look at the otters from a distance, you might think, oh, this would be fun, but then so many of these options that people come up with and share with you, Chris, kind of immediately it's just like, oh, I know 100 different ways that the otters would absolutely destroy this thing in a matter of seconds, right?
Yeah, and that's super common. Like, we'll have a lot of researchers come in with these grandiose proposals of things they want to do with the sea otters and how they want to study them and how we could learn more about them. And, they want to put something in the tank. And I'm like, you know what? It won't even last 2 minutes.
Right.
You can't give a camera to Kit or Ivy. It will never stand a chance. And so a lot of our procedures and protocols are all about maintaining safety and that they can't get access to things like that.
Gotcha. Yeah, coming back to this reminds me of the Otter box, the phone protector. You'll note on that packaging it doesn't say Sea Otter Proof on there, just as a heads up to the folks out there, because
definitely.
Yeah. Cool. Rachel, what do the folks want to know out there?
Lots of questions coming in. So we have a question from over on YouTube, 2-part question. So how do you train and pair a mom and a pup? And then the other one is, do adult otters make noise? And I'm kind of hoping you'll do an impression.
Yeah, and if you want me to scream on the mic, I could. We don't actually have to do any training with the moms and pups when we pair them up. We rotate the females through. So for example, Selka actually weaned a pup yesterday. So she is now last in line to get the next one. So we just systematically just keep rotating the females. So they have a long time on the exhibit to kind of recover and relax before they get the next pup to raise. So there is no real training. Sometimes when the females see the pups, they just grab a hold of them right away, and that's it. This is their pup, and they immediately start taking care of it. Sometimes they're not that into it, and it takes 2 or 3 introductions before the females really start bonding with the pups, and it completely changes from one introduction to the next. And the females do vocalize. The most common sea otter vocalization is between a mom and a pup, when they call back and forth to each other. And we hear that a lot when the females have a pup that they're raising as a surrogate, but we don't hear it on exhibit because they're not in that situation. The sound that we hear most is when they are not hungry and we ask them to do something, they will grumble at us, and they just grumble. It's just like, rah, 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 like you're making me eat this piece of food. How could you? And so when we hear that sound, we know the otter is not food motivated and doesn't want to join in what we're doing.
That's very funny. That is one of the big questions that we get, is what kind of noises the otters make there. That's really funny, though, that they
they hiss.
Complain like that.
They actually will hiss too, and it sounds like a cat hissing when you startle them and they're not expecting it. You'll hear a hissing sound from them. You're like, whoa, I scared you. I didn't mean to. If you step near them and they weren't expecting you to move or something like that. And Ivy in particular will hiss sometimes.
Gotcha. All right. Well, so that would be, that's not so much of a funny topic with the sea otters, more of a hysterical topic. Sorry.
Yeah.
Terrible. Moving along. Rachel, what kind of questions do the folks have out there?
All right. So more on pups. Are we the only aquarium that pairs females and pups?
We're not. We do pretty much the majority of the work right now that's going on, but we have sent pups to SeaWorld before. Down in San Diego, for example, Abby, who's on exhibit right now, we did not have room in our surrogate program at the time, and so they raised her down there. They didn't necessarily pair her with a mother and a surrogate right away. They basically hand raised her, but we are in the process of trying to get other aquariums to work with us and partner with us, and so our protocols and our procedures for using surrogates, we are actually working both with the Aquarium of the Pacific in Long Beach and SeaWorld in San Diego. And both of those programs are building a surrogate program to help us be able to rescue and rehab more sea otter pups than we can just do as a single institution, and then work together to get more animals released back out to the ocean. So we are working very hard right now on getting our protocols and our procedures to other facilities.
Awesome.
That's excellent.
So,
and sorry to interrupt very quickly. I noticed it's 2:15, and this was when we had mentioned earlier before that we might do a little bit of an enrichment here on the deck. So, Chris, you've got one of your team out there getting ready to give the otters what's known as an enrichment. Can you describe to us what might be happening here up on the deck?
Well, I actually can't see it, so you guys might have to tell me what's going on. But what we should expect is one of the senior aquarists here, Courtney Ribeiro French, is going to be raiding the sea otter ice machine and bringing out giant buckets of ice for the otters to play with. They've already had a whole bunch of their food today, so we're not going to put any food in this enrichment session. But one of the favorite things that they like to do is just sit there and eat and play in piles of ice. So she was willing to come back to the exhibit and do another ice pile for those guys.
That's awesome. Can you describe to us why the ice? Why do otters love the ice so much?
Well, there's a few things. One is it's fresh water. And if you think about, they're in salt water, so fresh water is going to taste different to them. It's also being cold. They are able to haul out of the water, lay in a pile of ice, and still maintain that body temperature. The reason you don't see our sea otters on the deck all the time, like you would their cousins, the river otters, is they overheat incredibly fast. So they can only be out for, a handful of minutes in weather like today, and they get too hot. So with ice, they kind of bury and snuggle down in the ice and kind of pack themselves in there, and then they can stay hauled out and play longer.
Awesome. We can see the door opening there in the back. There's a bucket coming in. There's Courtney.
Here comes Courtney.
Awesome. So describe to us maybe a little bit how this tends to go with this ice coming in here. Big old bucket.
Yeah, the otters automatically know what's going on, and what you'll see is she'll put the ice all over the place in a few places, and actually one of them I can see them in the water right now playing with them. And she'll make different piles. Sometimes it's a single pile, sometimes it's multiple piles. And you'll see the otters just like slide out of the water, grab a handful of ice, run back to the water to eat it, or they'll stay out and just dig in into the pile. The interesting thing about sea otters is that the enamel of their teeth is much stronger than ours. So,
Hmm.
for example, if you ask your dentist about eating ice, they will tell you, oh, excessive amounts of ice actually damages your teeth. Well, with these guys, the enamel is so much harder that they can easily eat ice all day long because they're used to eating big shelled prey items.
Hmm.
So it doesn't damage their teeth at all. And it's an enrichment that they will just do over and over and over again.
That's awesome. Yeah, the original Otter Pop there for everybody out there
Yes.
tuning in is the ice cube. Is the ice
Yes.
cube there? Rachel, what do the folks want to know out there?
We have an ice treat question, actually, asking about the colored ice treats and how you get them to be those different colors.
So the color that we add is just food coloring. We run up to the store all the time. We buy it in huge quantities too, and we just use a variety of different colors. And so when we make an ice mold, we have a tin or a bin or a bucket, whatever size we're using, and we just put drops of ice food coloring in it, like you would for a cake or something you're baking at home. And the reason we use food coloring is that anytime we color something weird and you guys see it, whether it's ice molds or some toy that's some strange color, some food item, it's the way the staff knows that there's no additives, there's no food in it, there's no medication, there's no vitamins, nothing. And it's just a pure treat with nothing added to it. And it's a way we can try to behind the scenes keep track of what we're doing. We make so many molds and so many ice treats that we need a way of keeping track. These have food in them, these don't.
Awesome. We have a really good look right now, too, just on the deck of all of the ladies there lined up. This is really great. Does it ever get old, Chris? Maybe is the question. Or can after you've dealt with everybody's rambunctiousness over the years, are you still able to see through the otter difficulties you may have with each individual, maybe choosing not to eat squid that day or whatever, making your job harder? Can you still see the cute, or I'm sure it comes in waves at this point, right?
Yeah, it's actually a really good question, and I get it sometimes. No matter how much they're misbehaving during the day, and there are days where you come in and they have literally broken the exhibit, and you are having to move them off exhibit and patch something, and you spend all day, fighting and stuff like that, trying to get them back on exhibit and everything fixed. No matter what, at the end of the day, they are still super, super cute. And that is their saving grace, that no matter what they do, you look at them and you're like, all right, that's cute, and stuff. So even in their worst attitudes, and I mean, they're related to wolverines and badgers and stuff like that. These aren't like cuddly things, but their saving thing is that they are cute.
That's awesome. And I think right now we have a good look there from Curtis and Abby up there on the deck, I believe, going through, searching for that preferred little ice cube to munch on.
Yeah, it is Abby, because Rosa's getting ready to take a nap. She likes to sleep against this main window, actually. This is where she spends her nap time. And Ivy is over in the corner. I can see her, and she's digging at something, which is always, for me, something to watch. Like, what are you doing over there? She's not a very trustworthy animal. So when you see Ivy focusing on something and digging, you just know she's working on something.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Oddly suspicious.
Yes.
That's funny. Rachel, what do the folks want to know out there related to the ice? We got Abby up there on the deck being just absolutely adorable. What do the folks want to know?
I love this question. It's about grooming, because that's what happens on the other side of eating, right? How do otters groom their backs?
Well, otters are built really interesting in the fact that they don't have a clavicle. So in your shoulders, you have this clavicle here that you turn around, and it means that you're kind of, we don't turn around real well. Well, without one, they can basically turn around on themselves. So they can easily just turn around and reach and grab and groom their back. They have no problem doing it. In fact, they will twist and turn in the weirdest positions that, we're kind of envious. We have to go to yoga class to be able to do something like that. And these guys just do it naturally. They roll up in tight little balls. They can, turn around. So grooming their back is no problem whatsoever.
That's great. When we have an itch on our back, we have to get the back scratcher.
Oh, totally.
Flip it around.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's great. And Curtis, just so you know, in this production, I'm currently covering you up with the webcam. I imagine that's kind of how you feel, maybe most days, of just like you have become the sea otter cam. So
you are the webcam.
There's Curtis over there. Rachel, what other questions are the folks asking out there?
Sure. We have a question about toys enrichment. So what sort of things do you provide them as toys, and what are their favorite enrichment items?
We have a very large area of our service area, and even on the roof of the exhibit, that is storage. And I'm not kidding when I say these guys probably have about half a dozen toy boxes full of things, and I know Patrick's been up there and he's seen them, and we are always looking for new objects. We're always looking for new enrichment ideas. When I travel to another facility, like I was at the Oregon Zoo not too long ago, and I always look at their toys, like, what do you got? Where did you, and I saw a new toy that we didn't have. I got the brand. We came back and we bought 4 of them. So we are able to use a lot of really hard dog toys. It depends on the material and what they're made out of. So when we go to the pet stores, we can always look and see what's out there. Certain brands of dog toys work better for these guys. But we also are very creative, and we build a lot of things in-house. For example, on the deck, there's a big brown bucket, a light colored bucket that you see. That we built into a waterfall today. And so we have a hose that comes from the exhibit water, so it's salt water. We can run it around our service area and put it as a waterfall into the exhibit. And that's something that the staff created. We spent a lot of time working with ice. We spent a lot of time working with clear tubing that we can tie together and make more complex things. We have a fire hose we actually got from a local fire station. We asked them for a hose they were not going to use anymore, and we got one donated. So we have a huge area of storage for all of their paraphernalia.
Awesome. We just had really good camera work there from Curtis, showing that enrichment there that you're running there in the background. I know right now we have a lot of very dedicated Sea Otter Cam viewers and followers who are there, always sending us messages, asking us, what's going on. I heard that she just went off exhibit. She's back on. I think I was alerted to Selka coming back on exhibit by one of the webcam followers before we even got an email about it. So thanks all the dedicated folks out there. I know all of you are out there watching all the enrichments every day and really enjoying that, as Abby just continues to have the greatest day ever chewing on that ice there. So Rachel, any other questions that you see coming in there from the audience? Otherwise, I got a couple that are kind of classics that we could throw out there, but maybe that's towards the end. But yeah, Rachel,
we have tons, Patrick.
Okay, perfect.
Tons of questions. One of them, it's about the mischief the otters are conducting. Do you have any stories about some otter mischief that they've gotten into? And it sounds like you need to keep a close eye on them because they're so active and curious. That's from Twitch.
Yeah, so my favorite story, and I tell this all the time, is between Kit and I. So in 2012, I even probably know the date, I walked onto exhibit first thing in the morning, and at the edge of the deck, about a foot from the water edge, was a perfectly straight line of large chunks of concrete. And I'm talking, these things are like 4 inches round, and there's a perfect line of them on the deck. And Kit pops up and she looks at me and it's like, ta-da, look what I did. And I just stood there and I was like, the whole exhibit, like in one night, right? And there's security guards that check on them. So I don't know what they were doing that night, but I look and she had overnight taken a little blue toy of hers that she's had for years and had excavated out a section of the back wall that was about 1.5 feet wide, probably 8 inches deep and 1 foot tall.
Wow.
And she excavated the whole thing out and lined it all up for us. Like, look at what I did. So, we immediately had to shut down the exhibit. We spent all day long working with our shop guys, making concrete, patching the back wall, trying to, fix her devastation. The whole time she's in holding and she's pigging out on live food and having a great day, taking a nap because she'd been up all night long, and yet here we are making concrete all day long. And it actually ended up, she showed us that the rock work was structurally, needing to be improved. And at the end of it, and the end of this, because of Kit doing this, we ended up closing the exhibit in September of 2012. We were closed until March, and we spent over $3 million renovating the tank. And that is solely because of that day of Kit's entertainment and enrichment.
Great job, Kit. Just
Kit and I have she's just awesome. She constantly is she's constantly breaking things. Yes.
Yeah, I love the fact that she was so proud of her work that she put it up on the deck. She was just like, check it out. Pretty good,
and it was just lined up perfectly, like just lined up.
Goodness.
Yeah.
I remember Kit was one of the first otters that I helped take care of when I was working with the Sea Otter Recovery Rehabilitation Program. So as a volunteer, we got to meet very briefly, and just the stories of her antics are legendary at this point. One I remember, I forget which aquarist it was, but a Sea Otter aquarist had spent months planning out this enrichment, freezing this whole contraption. And it was meant to be a slow feeder of ice, putting out little bits of food over time. But it was this inverted bucket in the kiddie pool, been frozen. It took forever. It went on exhibit. Everyone was so excited. And Kit took 2 looks at it, dragged the whole thing into the water, sat on top of it, broke the suction between the top and bottom, and just opened up all of the food within about 15 seconds. And just a month of planning went down. So she's a clever one. I remember that.
She is. She shows us always any weakness that we have, whether it's from a training point of view or an enrichment point of view or a facility design. If anybody needs to ever test out an exhibit that they're building, I will send them Kit, and they can have her for a couple weeks, and she'll show them exactly what needs to be repaired.
That's awesome. Yeah.
She's so great.
She takes after velociraptors from Jurassic Park in that way. Just clever girl.
Clever girl, indeed.
Awesome.
Another question came in from YouTube. Do they ever try to trick you, the sea otters?
Oh yeah, it happens almost every feeding. So for it's a constant thing where you cannot take your eyes off them. And this is because you hand them a piece of food and that they have the pockets, the loose folds of skin under their arms. And, it's their storage area. And, they're entitled to put things in there. But when we hand them, say, a piece of shrimp, you will see them slam it into their pocket so fast. And then they just look at you like, I got nothing. And they just stare at you. And you're like, I know you put that in your pocket and you have to eat that before you get the next piece. Or else they'll just hoard. So we have a real close, we keep a close eye on them because they literally slam it right into their pocket. And they just look at you. They just look innocent and sweet. And they're like, I got nothing. Are you going to feed me? You know? And it's like, eat the shrimp you got and I'll give you another one. But it happens almost every feeding that you'll see them stash stuff and they're just trying to, see if they can get one over you.
That's so funny. Just the idea of them grabbing the shrimp and having it in their pocket and just there's hundreds of people watching you not feed me. And I feel like you should throw me another squid. And it's just no, I'm on to you.
Yes. And we've actually had people, how come so-and-so wasn't being fed? And it's because she's sitting there with 3 shrimp in her pocket and being stubborn about it. And she knows she's not supposed to. But yes,
Oh,
we get that all the time.
that's funny. Oh, here, let me just transition us over because we currently have Ivy doing some spins, I believe, over in the Otter Spa, doing some grooming, going through. Pretty normal thing to happen after a little bit of an enrichment there, but we've got some spinning going on there in the Otter Spa. Thanks for the camera work there, Curtis.
Question.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so since we're watching spinning, the spinning question came in from YouTube, noticing that they flip a lot and asking if their inner ears are different from ours.
This would be a question for Dr. Mike. I wouldn't want to say anything, but I would imagine they've got to be, just because, of what they do in general, and they're always twisting and spinning to groom. But that would be, I wouldn't want to give the wrong information. So I would have to say that'd be something he'd have to respond to, and structurally. But I mean, they handle pressure different than us, from a diving point of view, like all marine mammals and stuff. So I'm sure there are definitely some differences, but I wouldn't be able to say for sure.
That's funny. We just have Ivy tumbling there in the background through the spa.
She's probably just grooming. She's starting to roll out and groom.
There's always a question about that spa, just for anybody who's watching. That is connected to the exhibit. It's not heated in any way. We just call it the Otter Spa because of the shape, right? There's nothing particular about that area, right?
Yeah, and it's also because we needed a word we have it as a trained behavior, and it's on a verbal cue, and we needed to call it something. So we didn't want to say Rosa hole in the deck. So we said Rosa Spa.
Right.
So yeah, so it's just a fun area for them, and it's also a good area if they want to kind of get away from each other. If somebody's bugging somebody, they can one of them goes to the spa and they just have their own little area.
No, that's some marketing right there. It's much better to say spa than hole in the deck.
Right.
Yeah, see, I mean, and it just comes out a little easier in a training session.
Yeah.
Right. Oh my gosh. You had an otter that was just peering over your shoulder. And
yeah, it's Rosa.
Hi, Rosa.
Do they have favorites, the otters? Do they like cling to a certain staff person? They just like check you out more than others, or?
Not really. We try very, very hard to make sure that they don't. So for example, this last session I worked with Rosa. Next session I'll work with somebody else. And so pretty much all the full-time staff that work with these guys, there's 5 of us. We move and shift our staff around session to session. One, to change up what we're training and what we're working on, but also to make sure that the otters don't become fixated on one person, because then if that person is on vacation, or it's their weekend, or they move to another aquarium or something, it creates issues with the animals and feeding.
Hadn't thought about that. Yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
A question that I think generally it would be interesting for people to hear from you, Chris, because we get this question a lot. Rosa is a very blonde sea otter, so is Ivy. Abby a little bit less there. Can you tell us a little bit about the grizzling of sea otters, whether or not that's due to age or genetics? What can you tell us about the grizzling there? A lot of people noticing that and have questions about the coloration of the otters. It's not just age, right?
Yeah, it's definitely not age, and a lot of people think it is. But for example, the otter on site that has the fur that is the blondest in color is Ivy, and she's 8 years old. She's got it all the way down her belly. And Rosa, who's 21 years old, she's blonde, but she's not nearly as blonde. You can get pups that are born really blonde. So it is something that is not, you can't depend on age. When you're trying to age a sea otter, you look at the teeth and the wear and tear on their teeth, things like that. But you can't use coloration as the guideline, although we find usually on some of our animals, they get blonder as they age. So for example, when I started working here 15 years ago, Rosa was dark brown.
Wow.
She was a dark brown, and I have all these pictures of her. But as she's aged, she's gotten more grizzled and lighter in color. So they tend to lighten up, but it's not it doesn't tell you what their age is. but they do
Gotcha.
tend to lighten up.
Awesome. Yeah. So there, you heard it here, everybody. When you're at the aquarium next, you can tell all of your friends that about the grizzling. We just had such an amazing look just then, thanks to Curtis, of Ivy just living her best life there in the spa with that grizzle there, and then we've got Abby still up on the deck chewing away there. So, yeah, that was a really good look at that grizzling there. So if you ever hear people refer to otters as kelp grizzlies, the grizzling is that blondedness of the fur there. Okay, I'm done. Rachel, questions? What do we think?
All right. We had someone noticing that the otters are sliding around a lot more than walking on land. Why is that?
Sea otters, they're very different than their cousins, the river otters. With river otters, 50% of their life cycle is on land. They sleep on land, they den on land, they give birth on land, they do a lot of hunting on land. So they're built to run on all four legs. With sea otters, they're built for the water. They may haul out once in a while, but they're built for the water. And so you definitely don't see them run like you would a river otter. They're just not built that way, but they can tuck their back legs and lope along on all four legs. But they tend to be a little some of them, it depends on the animal. Selka usually runs on all four legs. Ivy and Kit do most of the time. But Abby tends to just use her two little front legs and just like pedal and then just drag the rest of her along. So it's completely specific for each individual, and they go both ways. They'll be like, oh, I'm only front legs and now I run, but now I'm front legs and now I run. So it changes all the time.
That's awesome. That is one of those things people will often notice, especially with Abby, as she Abby tends to be the first one to the back door, ready for you at any time, and then usually the first thing she does is just run to the water because that's where you send her. Is that something you notice with the different otters that wanting to come up and be on the deck and then slide around, slip and slide like that, or?
Yeah, and Abby she's at the back door because if Abby could, she would live in the kitchen with us in our service area. She was raised down at SeaWorld San Diego, and her pup pool was in their main service area, kitchen area. So she kind of grew up in the kitchen. And to this day, I fully believe if we would open that door for her, she would love to just come chill in the kitchen with us and stuff. And so there's a crack under the door. And so you will see her with her big giant eye looking under the door, trying to see everything that we're doing, even though it's really none of her business because we're doing our own thing. She really loves to just know what's going on. We frequently open the door to the back area into their back holding, and she will sit there for extensive amounts of time, just sitting there watching everything we're doing because she's just super interested in it. But yeah, that's very, very much an Abby thing. The others will come back, check us out and leave, but she just parks it. And if she could, she would be in the kitchen at all times.
That's so funny, especially thinking that she's like at the door, like, I have some notes about the size of the shrimp. If we could just think about,
Yeah. And could you not put squid in my bucket? Thanks. Right. I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, just, sorry, hold the squid. I know it's a squid salad specifically, but if you could, yeah.
That's totally her.
That's awesome. Rachel, more questions from the folks out there.
Yeah. We have some otter care questions coming in. This one is from Twitch, and they're asking, have we ever cared for any blind otters?
Actually, we have, and the one we've had an older rehab otter that came in and was kind of like a hospice situation, and her sight was not good, so we took care of her. But also Rosa, our 21-year-old, has extremely compromised vision. We're not quite sure how much she can still see, so all of her training program is built for a non-sighted animal. So we only have a few people that handle her and work with her. She gets eye drops a couple times a day as a kind of a preventative eye health care program. We're very careful with our wording. We've changed our behaviors, what we ask her, what we don't ask her. And so we have an entirely changed and different training program to work with Rosa. As she's gotten older, we've definitely seen her eyesight get worse. And so we're treating her for the most part like she can't see.
Gotcha. Well, and that's a great question that folks have, and related to Rosa is how old do these otters tend to live in the wild, and then in our care, and what has Rosa's trajectory looked like? Because some folks out there are mentioning that she's retired now from taking care of those pups. So what does that care look like, taking care of these generations of otters as they age with the program at the aquarium?
Yeah, so Rosa's 21 now. She turned 21 in August. Females usually live 15 to 20 years. And so she's above her expected, lifespan. Males on about 10 to 15 years. It's much harder to be a male sea otter out there. But because of the excellent and world class vet care that we're able to give her, and we're able to provide everything she needs, from food and medical care, treatment, supplements, anything that we think she would need. I'm hoping that she'll still be around for years. That would definitely be my hope.
Awesome.
But she's definitely past the expected life expectancy range.
Right. Yeah, so for all of you folks out there who have been a part of Rosa's life, happy 21st birthday to her as well. And so it's great that we still have her there, and then potentially coming to rest right next to you there, Chris, in just a second. As right now, we just have an absolute clinic going on the deck with Abby deciding to be as adorable as she possibly could be. This is why sea otters are. So just look at her go. Look at Abby go. Doing her best. Can you describe to us a little bit what's going on when an otter is grooming like this? What are they trying to do?
Well, I can't really see what's going on, like I said, unless I stand up and walk away from the camera. But after a session, they literally will spend they can spend minutes or hours working on their coat and grooming. So my guess is that's what she's doing. She's hauled out in ice, probably chilling, literally in the ice pile. And she's probably just grooming her coat. I mean, they spend about a third of their day fixing and grooming a very meticulous coat. Now, not all otters groom the same. So if you look at Rosa's coat, it's in beautiful condition. If you look at Abby, she has a very nice coat. If you look at Ivy, she is a very lazy groomer. In fact, so that you guys can see this, when she hauls out, you'll see wet slicks on her side, and you'll see on her belly, she actually looks like a leopard. She's got little round spots, and those are spots that she just hasn't bothered to take care of. And
That's
stuff.
awesome.
So she, we provide all the food for her, and she gets to play all day. And so why would she want to take care of, herself? She has all the food that she could need, and stuff. So, but yeah, when you see Ivy haul out, pay attention to that coat. And we are constantly telling her how messy her dress is, and, her coat. We're like, come on, you look like a leopard. You're not even the same species anymore. And she's just, I'll go play. And off she goes.
I definitely, if you could just pass on to Ivy that in quarantine, I feel like my grooming has also gone through very similar moments of just a lot of attention and absolutely zero attention whatsoever. So,
no, I don't think she's wrong. I just think she's a different level than Rosa. You look at Rosa, and she's got an immaculate coat most of the time.
Love Rosa. We have a couple more otter care questions here. There's one coming in from YouTube. Do the otters get checkups once in a while from Dr. Mike, and what happens during those checkups?
Yeah, they do. They actually get checkups way more frequently than we do. They get routine exams about every 4 months. I keep a schedule of when the next one's due. Selka got hers yesterday. when we weaned her from the pup. She got cleared today medically, so she'll be back on exhibit hopefully tomorrow. So about every 4 months we get them, take them into Dr. Mike. They're under anesthesia, which is the only way you can give them an exam for safety of the staff and her and the vet. But they get a full blood workup. They get x-rays done. He checks their eyes. He checks kind of the mobility and the range of motion of their flippers and arms. He palpates them completely. And then we also do a lot of research at that time. If we have researchers who need sea otter samples of blood work or something like that, we will, collect samples for different research projects. We will ultrasound them if we need to. So he has a huge list of different tests that he does. And then pretty much at the end of it, we always get weights, but we also do lengths and girths and paw size and size of their teeth. They get a dental checkup as part of this. He checks their teeth to see if they need a cleaning or more live food to help clean their teeth. So, I mean, it's extensive. They're under the exam for 45 minutes to an hour. And then we just wake them up and they're ready to eat in 30 minutes.
Wow. Ready to eat in 30 minutes is, like that's search and delivery pizza and then just sea otters all the time.
Yeah. And they're ready to eat instantly. We wait 30 minutes after to make sure they're fully awake and everything's working good. But I mean, they would pop up instantly, be like, breakfast,
Yeah. They're just the hobbits of the sea. Where are my lemonsies, right?
Who's that? We got Rosa right
Rosa.
there.
Right? Yeah. This is her resting place. I'm probably keeping her awake.
Oh, sorry, Rosa. Nap time. Oh, that's hilarious. The idea of coming out of anesthesia and just being like, so, do we have any clams around?
Yeah, where's my breakfast? We are late.
That's great. Yeah, Rachel, more questions from the folks. And by the way, if we haven't gotten to your question yet, we've got a rapid fire question segment that will be coming up for you, Chris, of just like the classic sea otter questions here coming up. We got like 5 more minutes to just hang out before it gets really intense and there's a quiz at the end. We're totally kidding. But Rachel.
So just so you guys all know, that's the first he's ever mentioned of that. He's never told me that before. So just so you know.
Great. We're totally kidding, Chris. Rapid fire is just whatever we haven't answered there at the end. But yeah, Rachel, a conversational question before the quiz.
Yes. This is one of my favorite questions that comes up. It's from the aspiring marine biologists out there. What's the best college to go to if I were at an aquarium or zoo? What should I major and minor in that would give me the best opportunities to work at a zoo or aquarium? And that's from YouTube.
It just depends on what you want to do. If you want to get into a background as a researcher, you're going to go to a research-based place. If you want to go into a program where you're learning to work and train animals, that would be another different place. There's a lot of places that are possibilities. I ended up graduating from UC Santa Cruz, University of California, Santa Cruz. They have a great marine facility that I was volunteering at the time. So I would say in addition to, it doesn't really matter where you go to school, you're going to want some kind of biology background, animal behavior background. And that's primarily so that when the vet tells you something about your animal, you can understand what they're saying. If they tell you the WBC is high, that's the white blood cell count, and that means what? So I would tell people some kind of biology background is super helpful. You have to be able to publicly speak and stuff so that you can do, fun things like this. But you also need to be able to scuba dive, so look for things like that. But most zoos and aquariums nowadays have volunteer programs. They have internship programs, and it doesn't matter what college you're at, you can apply for. And that gets your foot in the door someplace and gives you the hand-on experience, because graduating with just a degree doesn't really matter. Everybody that's applying has a degree. You need to come out of school with the hands-on work to get you your application to be above just a degree program.
Gotcha. Yeah. So yeah, for all you folks out there, get animal experience where you can, biology experience, and then also start volunteering with things that are somewhat related. Get that experience going, and you can have a full career even before you graduate with a lot of that work there.
And you have to decide if this is really what you want to do. Do you really want to clean up, after a giraffe every day? Oh, yes or no?
Right.
I loved it. I thought, working with terrestrial animals was great, and stuff. But
yeah, exactly. How much food processing of chopping it up, getting it to your animal, and then cleaning up once it's been through your animal, that is a majority part of that as well.
It is. It definitely is.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's see. We've got just a few minutes left before the top of the hour here. Rachel, I was going to say that we can ask some of those questions that have piled up that have some shorter answers in a little bit of a rapid fire, kind of quick go session. So I've got a first one, Rachel, if you have others. But a typical question that we get all the time, Chris, is how long can a sea otter hold its breath?
A really long dive for these guys is 6 minutes. And after that, they're huffing and puffing. They bounce dive, fly down to the bottom, grab a crab, fly up and eat it. So they're not down there foraging like a other marine mammal species would. So a long dive is 6 minutes. On average, probably about 2 minutes, and then they're back up to the surface.
There you go. Nicely done.
Do the otters groom each other?
They will. They will groom each other. It's not that common. And they tend to just pick one little spot and maybe they do it, but it's super brief. Except a mom and pup. The mom will groom the pup for extensive periods of time, but for the most part, they kind of leave each other alone. Like I wouldn't want Ivy grooming my coat because she doesn't even groom her coat. So why would I want her grooming mine? So they can, but they really don't.
All right. Do they ever squabble with each other, ever get into little disagreements over things?
They definitely can, especially they'll steal from each other and stuff. And so like if somebody has a toy and somebody else wants it, they'll try to jump in and get the toy. So we try to be very careful we give the more dominant animals more complex toys to keep them busy. So that like an older animal like Rosa can eat hers in peace, and stuff like that. But they can, and definitely, at times you'll see them like paw each other, like get away from me, you're touching me, and stuff like that. But, shoot, I would do it too.
Awesome.
How do you name the otters?
If they're going to be a permanent resident here at the Monterey Bay Aquarium, we try to pick names out of the Steinbeck books, just because of us being on Cannery Row. So I have a huge list of all the female Steinbeck names, but they're not that great, and they're kind of from that time period, so we have a hard time picking names, but once we do select names, sometimes just the staff will choose because we're the ones who have to use it every single day for the rest of our employment here, but sometimes we'll put it out to volunteers or other staff, or we've even done social media at times where people can vote and choose, but we give them, these are the only options you get because we have to use it and it needs to be easy for us to use.
Oh, this is a great one.
Gotcha.
Came in on Twitch. What can we do to help with conservation of otters?
Well, there's a variety of things you can do. One is, and I'm a huge believer in this, is if you go to the beach, which and I'm a firm supporter of this, I do it every weekend. If you go to the beach, man, help clean it up. Because there's so much trash that we are allowing into the ocean that these guys get wrapped up in, they interact with. We've had otters come in with fishing line hooks in their paws just because they're curious and pick up stuff, or wrapped up in rope that they shouldn't be, things like that. So, I mean, that's personally something that, I really try to do every week is some kind of beach cleanup. But also, just where you can decrease the amount of plastic, decrease the amount of, trash that we make, because so much of it goes into the bay and the ocean and the landfills, and stuff like that. So I would also say, and I am not at all in our fundraising team or anything like that. But, zoos and aquariums right now are super hurting because of, being closed. And, we're nonprofit. And, for us, we've been closed over 6 months, which is a huge amount of time. Other facilities that have been able to open up again, but we haven't been. So, we're still going hardcore on our conservation programs and our otter rehab. So if there's an otter on a beach, we're still bringing it in. We're still doing everything we can for it. And, these guys are expensive. They eat $12,000-$15,000 of food a year, and that's just one otter. That's one sea otter. Now multiply that by a big rehab program and stuff. So anyways, that would just be, consider helping out any zoo or aquarium. Everybody's in the same issues and straits right now.
Absolutely. And to that point, this sea otter surrogacy program and taking care of wild pups, releasing them to the wild, and our resident sea otters, our rescued sea otters. There aren't too many programs in the world that do this. Up until recently, it was just us taking care of these pups. Now there are a couple of facilities that are working on getting their rescue and rehabilitation work up, but it's really just been our program, your staff taking care of those otters. So for you folks out there that are tuning in on Twitch or on YouTube, there's a couple of donate links that will pop up there in the chat. You can always head over to MontereyBayAquarium.org and support us. Helping out sea otters, like you said, Chris, it goes from, your local beach, especially out here in the otter range. We've all seen those photos of, baby otters in plastic bags. Thankfully, that particular photo that gets shared to us, that pup was, taken out by mom. But so from there to supporting this sea otter program, all the way up to, making sure that you're helping supporting legislation and candidates that are thinking about the ocean policy. But yeah, supporting the aquarium absolutely would be a great way of doing that. More clams for the otters. Is that there?
I still think we should do a campaign for the otters.
Campaign. That's right. Well, we're coming up on the end of the hour here. Rachel, I don't know if there's any more pressing questions that they're seeing come up, but Chris, typically what we end on is a little bit of your wisdom and sharing to somebody who is currently watching the program, who really wants to get involved, maybe wants to do your kind of job in the future, wants to help sea otters, wants to get involved in marine science generally. What kind of advice would you give somebody who's watching this right now and just like, this is what I want to do, whatever this is, otters, conservation, what would you tell them?
Well, I definitely think it depends on, what your age is. If you live locally and you're someone in our community in Monterey County, we have a volunteer program with our rehab and rescue otters, where you can get hands-on experience and working with them. And that program is solely, supported. Volunteers are enormously important for that. And stuff, but it's otters all over the world that are having issues. So whether it's us or you're down in Santa Barbara and working, there with their otters, they have different species, but they're worth working with. But if you're in school and college, man, you got to get those grades, you got to get that schooling and stuff, and get into those internships and programs and stuff like that. So it depends. But I was one of those little kids that went to a marine facility. I went to SeaWorld San Diego, and I went to the petting pool, and I cost my dad to this day tells me it cost him $84 in buying 4 fish at a time until I was satisfied with the day. And I just fed those dolphins all day long. That's all I wanted to do. And that was it. I was done. That was what I wanted to do. So, I'm also right there with you, Patrick, of, that was it. I had my dolphin moment, and I was going to do this and stuff. So, yeah.
That's excellent. Oh, well, this has just been, this hour flew by, Chris. Honestly, can't thank you enough for taking the time. I know it's been a lot on your team's plate during Sea Otter Awareness Week. Hashtag Sea Otter Awareness Week out there, everybody. Could we just get in the chat just a round of applause for Chris and the Sea Otter team for doing such an amazing job all day, every day, and especially during Sea Otter Awareness Week. You got to see so many really cool things there on the cams, all the enrichments, all the fun stuff. So thank you, Chris, for taking the time, for answering our questions, and for all the great work that you do with those sea otters.
It was definitely my pleasure, and thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Awesome. How you feeling, Rachel? I feel warm and fuzzy.
Feeling good. Feeling possum.
Feeling possum. Excellent. All right. Well, thank you so much, Chris. Thank you, everybody who has been tuning in. We're going to sign off from this particular broadcast here. If you'd like to support the aquarium, again, you can head over to our website, montereybayaquarium.org. If you're not financially able to help the aquarium right now, no worries. Share this broadcast. Let your friends know about this work with sea otters. And with that, thanks, everybody. And we will see you again soon at the Monterey Bay Aquarium. Thanks, everybody. Happy Sea Otter Awareness Week.